class, we are going to discuss new Malayalam cinema, which is an extremely important chapter in the annals of new Indian cinema. 4 years after Pattavi Ramareddy's Samskara 1970 had taken the world of alternative Kannada cinema by storm, the wind of change reached Kerala in the shape of Adur Gopalakrishnan's first film, Swayambharam, One's Own Choice. We will be looking at three extremely important figures in new Malayalam cinema: Adur Gopalakrishnan, Govindan Aravindan, and John Abraham. We shall also be having a look at some other important figures who contributed their might to the making of this body of work in Kerala. First, Adur Gopalakrishnan. Swayamvaram, in his next film, Kodiyattam, The Ascent, the story of a rural vagabond who comes of age following his marriage, but more importantly, his becoming a father. But the third film that Adur made really shook the film world. Elippathayam, The Rat Trap, 1981. The central character in Elippathayam is Unni, who represents a familial and societal order that is rapidly disintegrating, meaning the feudal order. Time and other factors, history, popular expectations, all these have taken toll of the feudal order. This is a story of a brother who, by training and temperament, is such an exploiter that he does not spare even his own sister from the scourge of exploitation. Rajamma labors, rather slaves, all through the day to make life comfortable for her unmarried brother, Unni. Unni does not want to give Rajamma in marriage. Then he will have nobody left at home to attend to all his whims and fancies. This is a particularly vicious picture of exploitation. It gives you an idea of what feudalism is like, what that order, that culture, that philosophy induces in people.
Sridevi, velil arando vannu. Aara nokki.
Ultimately, of course, history takes its course and Unni comes a cropper. It is necessary for us to also discuss what his two other sisters do. The one sister, who is a widow with a family and is senior to him in age, she lives apart. The third, the younger one, sees that she has no future in this household, knowing her brother as she does. She elopes with a stranger. Now, only Unni and Rajamma, the voiceless one, so to say, are in that ancestral Kerala house with its peculiar architecture.
ഇവിടെ ആരുമില്ലയോ?
This film, why is it called The Rat Trap? The film derives its structure from a number of exits. At least 6 of them can be counted. I will mention a few of them. The first exit is of a rat which has been caught in the rat trap, and they go and drown the rat in the village pond. That's the first exit. Another exit is of the youngest sister. Without informing the family, she runs away. Another exit, Rajamma is so sick, overworked, undernourished, that one day she collapses. The brother doesn't take her to the hospital. Villagers, strangers, acquaintances, they come and take her away to the hospital. The last exit is, you see, the house had a rat trap. Now the house becomes a rat trap. Unni becomes the rat. And finally, one day, some unknown elements break into the house and bodily lift him and throw him into the same village pond where the rat had been drowned. is an extremely important film and one of the highlights of New Indian cinema if you take in its entirety. And now we will go to the second important figure of the triumvirate, Govindan Aravindan. Adur came to filmmaking with formal training at the Film Institute in Pune. Aravindan came without any formal training. He did not even serve the required, let's say, apprenticeship under anybody. He was a filmmaker, you could say, by instinct. Painter, illustrator, cartoonist, very famous cartoonist, a musician, singer, theatre man. He was many artists rolled into one. And this is reflected in the body of work he created, the interdisciplinary thing that I was telling you, that many of the greatest filmmakers in the world are people who have intimate knowledge of several art forms, several disciplines. He had it. The first film he made did not create much of an impression. But you could see that this is a person who is trying to do something serious and out of the ordinary. His second film, Kanchana Sita, took a part of the Ramayana story. Actually, it's a part of a play on the Ramayana. After that, he made Thambu, commonly regarded as the most important film by Govindan Aravindan. Thambu, what is Thambu? He actually thought of making a documentary about an itinerant, rather poor circus party, which goes from village to village, pitches tent, stays for a time, makes a little money, and then goes on to the next village or the small town. But later on, they pitched a tent, he began to shoot. There were certain episodes happening within the circus party. These were also captured by the camera. It became a kind of a docu-fiction, perhaps a more documentary than drama. Black and white, the images strung together by the imagination of the poet in Aravindan and by the visual flair of his cinematographer, Shaji Karu. After Thambu, he made 3 films in quick succession. Kumatti, a story about a wayside singer and village children. It is easy to look upon Kumatti as a children's film, which it certainly is not. Even adults who are prepared to recall their childhood, become children for a few days, even they can enjoy this film very much. It's a wonderful film. In the tradition of the Panchatantra tales, Katha, Sarat Sagara, those tales, Jataka tales, grandmother's tales, Thakur Marjuli, all those, an improbable character comes from nowhere, sings songs, he regales the children and leaves after a while. Esthappan, Stephen, is the next film. A loafer to some, a philosopher to others, a Christ-like figure, a wanderer, a thief. Different people have different notions about Esthappan.
ഇതൊരു പ്രാവാണെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നല്ലോ. അല്ലല്ല, മാലാഖയാണ് വരയ്ക്കുന്നത്. നേരത്തെ വരച്ചതിനേക്കാളും കൊള്ളാടാ ഇപ്പൊ വരയ്ക്കുന്നത്. ഞങ്ങൾ ജയിക്കാൻ നോക്കോ?
ആ നിങ്ങൾ വന്നോ? ആ ആ, ഇരിക്ക് ഇരിക്ക് ഇരിക്ക്. ആ
ഞങ്ങൾ ജയിക്കോ തോക്കുവോ?
Arvindan said that if I could only live my life like Esthapan, walking and walking and walking. Then comes Pokkuvel, a story about a young man and the hallucinations he experiences in a mental asylum as a result of being rejected by the girl he loved. Chidambaram is the next film. It won the best film of the award. And finally we come to Vastuhara. This was his last film, and it was a film that he said was a tribute to the tribulations and trials that the Bengal refugees suffered as a result of the partition. It's based on a story by a Malayali writer who had served as a rehabilitation officer in the Andaman Islands. His task was to come to Calcutta to choose so-called low-caste Bengalis who had been forced to come from East Bengal to, let's say it was East Bengal, then East Pakistan, and now Bangladesh, from that area and cross over to this part for resettlement in the Andamans. You see, he would choose, he would come, he would choose. The role is played by Mohanlal to advantage.
আমি আশায় ঘুরিলাম কারো পাশে।
Finally, we arrive at the third pillar of new Malayalam cinema, John Abraham.
Free Nelson Mandela.
John Abraham, like Adur, trained at the Film Institute in Pune. Both Adur and John had Ritik Ghatak as their teacher in Pune. Though Ghatak had a special affection for John, and John, of course, looked up to Ghatak as his mentor, as his muse, as his elder brother. I like to characterize John's cinema as cinema of the absurd and the pure. He was a saint of the gutters, for whom the sacred was ordinary and the profane was sacred. If you see at least 2 of his films, he made only 4 films, and he lived a short life too, like Arvindan. Actually, he lived even a shorter life. Agraharathil Kaduthai in Tamil, he's a Malayali, he's from Kerala, but he made a leap with a film in Tamil, Donkey in a Brahmin Village. This is an extremely important film, but here is a man whom you can call, in a sense, though he made 4 films, a one-film wonder. He took the quantum leap with Amma Aryan, Letter to Mother. Backdrop, the Naxalite movement. Many people, many young men and women were shot by the police in Kerala, reminiscent of what was was happening then in Bengal. After the so-called failure of the Naxalite movement, a lot of these very sensitive young people who saw their dreams of a better society being smashed, they committed suicide. There were more suicides in Kerala than in Bengal. John imagines that he is writing a letter to the mothers of all the young men and women who died or who ended themselves. And he does what? he fuses documentary and drama, politics and poetics, history and the present times, the classical and the folk, all, everything, and gives us a mishmash. It is difficult to see, judge for yourself whether you are seeing a fictional feature or a documentary feature that is intensely alive, believable. For this film alone, John Abraham occupies a place at the very top of New Malayalam cinema, New Indian cinema.
Free, free Nelson Mandela. 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 Free, free Nelson
നമ്മുടെ ആ നാടകത്തിൽ കവിത വായിക്കുന്ന ഹരി ഉണ്ടല്ലോ, അവൻ ആത്മഹത്യ ചെയ്തു.
Mandela.
നമുക്ക് അവിടെ നിന്ന് പോകണം.
Finally, we come to Shaji Karun, about whom I had mentioned earlier. Shaji had all along been the cinematographer of Aravindan, but ultimately showed that even whilst he was behind the camera in one capacity, that of the cinematographer, he was preparing himself for the role of the director. He made Piravi. Piravi occupies a very important position in New Malayalam cinema. Wherever it went, all over the world, the film was invited to different festivals. Wherever it went, it won awards. It spoke of the disappearance of a young man, Rajan. Someone by the name of Rajan had disappeared from his hostel during the days of the emergency. You see, it was a time, very chaotic, unsettled time all over the country, especially in Bengal and in Kerala. Naxalite movement, it was in the late 60s and early 70s. Then again, soon after that, there is emergency. It was a very unsettled time, especially for the youth who were responding in a very virile way to the inadequacies and all the iniquities they were finding in the social system and in the political establishment. Rajan disappeared. His father, old father, goes out in search of his young son. The rains in Kerala seem to have energized the aged limbs of the old father who goes out in search of his son. The story is, in a sense, a road movie. But the roads are many. The physical road, the father traveling in the rain, waiting in the rain under a shade, traveling by bus, walking. This is the physical part of the road movie. But there is also a spiritual part to it. A soulful journey, hoping against hope, my son may be alive. Piravi is a fine embodiment of the ideas and ideals, the questioning spirit, questioning the system. I'm not happy with what is happening in this country of ours, in this democratic, so-called socialistic country of ours. All these films by these very distinguished statesmen of cinema, I think, will be rediscovered. For a time now, they seem to have gone to the wings. But as the days grow darker, they are again going to come back to the center stage. And the new generations will discover the riches that we discovered when we were young. With this, we come to the end of this class on New Malayalam cinema. I hope we'll get another opportunity, another time to discuss it further. Thank you for your attention.